Our story begins 1 year after The Last Jedi, with Kylo Ren arriving on the Sith world of Exegol to confront the resurrected Emperor Palpatine. Palpatine explains that he actually created Kylo's former master, Snoke, and has been the one guiding him to the dark side. While Ren has come to destroy the old man, Palpatine offers him a deal: kill Rey and become the new Emperor of the galaxy with the weapons of the Final Order. We cut to the Millennium Falcon arriving at the Resistance's base on Ajan Kloss after picking up a tip from a First Order spy where Finn, Poe, and Chewie relay the news that Palpatine lives and is currently on Exegol, a world which is not in any known star charts. Rey, however, realizes that her former master, Luke Skywalker, knew of a way to find it, with two devices that belong to Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine called Sith Wayfinders. The four heroes, along with BB-8 and C-3PO, then make their way to a world called Pasaana to check out the last known coordinate Luke checked before giving up his quest to find the Emperor's Wayfinder. While on Pasaana, Rey is confronted by a vision of Kylo Ren, their link from The Last Jedi still present. Kylo explains that while Palpatine wants her dead, his own plan is to turn her to the dark side, then kill the old bastard together. Kylo then deduces from a necklace that Rey is wearing that his rival is on Pasaana, and runs off with his Knights of Ren and scrambles the local stormtroopers to confront the last student of Skywalker. Rey, Finn, Poe, Chewie, and the droids then flee to wherever they can find safety before eventually falling into quicksand. The sextet then find themselves underground, where they find a dagger with the Wayfinder's location inscribed on it in the ancient language of the Sith, and are also confronted by a large, wounded Stand-Sake creature, but not wanting to fight it, Rey heals the creature with an old Jedi technique, who then shows them the way to the surface. Sensing Kylo's presence on the planet, Rey separates from the rest of the group to confront her nemesis. Then Chewie heads in to save her. He's then instead kidnapped by the Knights of Ren. In a forced battle with Kylo, Rey tries to save Chewie, but in her frustration, ends up blasting the Knight's ship with Force Lightning. Rey and the rest of the team then head for Kijimi to extract the information from the Sith dagger from C-3PO's memory banks, seeing as while the droid can understand the language, he's physically incapable of speaking it due to Republic law. Once on Kijimi, the quintet are confronted by Zori Bliss, an old flame opposed who threatens to turn them into the First Order, but is persuaded by Rey to help them find a droid mechanic named Babu Frick. Babu works his magic, and 3PO reveals that Palpatine's Wayfinder is on a moon in the Endor system. While working on C-3PO, Rey senses that Chewie is still alive and is currently being held captive on Ren's Star Destroyer, currently in orbit over Kijimi. The quintet then sneak aboard said ship and rescue Chewie with the help of General Hux, who reveals that he is the First Order spy and has had an enormous change of heart, realizing that fascism is evil and that the Republic truly was a force for good in the galaxy, and everything I just said was a complete lie. He's sabotaging the First Order purely because he hates Kylo and wants him to fail. Rey then has a brief standoff with the First Order's new Supreme Leader, who reveals that when he said the girl's parents were no one, he was actually wrong. They were royalty. Specifically, her father was the son of Emperor Palpatine, making Rey the Emperor's granddaughter. The sextet then arrive on Endor's moon of Kefir, where Rey ventures alone out to find her grandfather's Wayfinder, but instead finds Kylo, who beat her there, and subsequently destroys the device. In a rage, Rey begins a duel with Kylo, wanting to finally kill the bastard who's been causing her nothing but pain for the last year. Sensing that her son will soon kill her student, thanks to his greater skill and her current lack of focus, Leia uses all of her strength in the Force to contact Kylo to hopefully convince him to stay his hand at the cost of her own life. Caught off guard by his mother's voice, Kylo is distracted and drops his saber, which Rey then catches and stabs him in the gut with the blade. She quickly calms down though, and realizing that she was acting with hate and not like a Jedi. She then heals Leia's son and explains that while they were on Snoke's ship, when he offered her his hand, she did want to take it, but not Kylo Ren's hand, Ben Solo's. She then runs off and Ren spied her, needing to find a place to get her head together. While pondering what just happened, Kylo imagines a conversation between himself and his late father, Han Solo, which leads to him swearing off the dark side and re-embracing his identity as Ben Solo. We then cut back to Rey, who's returned to Ahch-To, having decided if she has the Emperor's power, then her power is too dangerous. She's then greeted by Luke's ghost, who gently chastises her for being so silly, like he was in the last movie. And after a brief pep talk, Luke gifts Rey Leia's saber and his old X-Wing, which she then plugs Vader's Wayfinder into, with Kylo Ren having found it at the start of the film. She then runs off to Exegol to find her grandfather, but she also sends her Starpath to the Resistance, which allows Finn and Poe, now acting co-generals after Leia's death, to quickly put a plan together. Chewie will take the Falcon to the core of the galaxy and send out a message to anyone willing to rise up, while the rest of the Resistance runs to Exegol and knock out the destroyers while they're still in the atmosphere. Rey finally confronts her grandfather, tries to goad her into killing him so that his spirit can take control of her body. Rey refuses at first, but almost comes around when Palpatine points out that she can order the Final Order's fleet to stop attacking the Resistance if she takes his throne. She's then brought back to reality by the arrival of Ben Solo. Using their bond in the Force, Rey hands Ben Anakin's saber, which he uses to dispatch his former disciples, the Knights of Ren. Rey herself then uses Leia's saber to dispatch the Emperor's Royal Guard. Once the duo are united, Palpatine opts for Plan C. Use the power of Ben and Rey's Force bond to reinvigorate his decaying body, and just kill everyone himself.
Well, like my daddy said right before he killed my mom, want anything done right, you gotta do it yourself.
Meanwhile, back in the air, Chewie returns with a ragtag battalion of friendly troops for the Resistance to push the Final Order back, consisting of Y-Wings, X-Wings, B-Wings, Royal Naboo fighters, Trade Federation ships, and even Lando Calrissian himself returning as Chewie's co-pilot with Wedge Antilles' Falcon's gunnery. The balance is soon tipped back into the Final Order's favor, however, when Palpatine lets loose enough lightning to blast every single ship out of the sky. Alone, thanks to her grandfather blasting Ben into a pit, and desperate thanks to the whole situation, Rey calls upon the spirits of the Jedi who came before her, who encourage and empower her to stand against the Emperor. Palpatine tries to blast his granddaughter with more lightning, but Rey blocks and redirects it using Anakin and Leia's saber, causing the Sith's flesh to disintegrate, and finally killing the greatest evil the galaxy has ever known. This leaves the Resistance with enough time to finally end the Final Order. This victory, though, doesn't come without sacrifice. Facing off with Palpatine took all of Rey's strength, which left her too weak to continue living. Thankfully, though, her sacrifice doesn't have to last. Ben resurfaces after surviving his fall, and uses Rey's healing technique to bring his Jedi friend back to life at the cost of his own life. Rey then returns to Ancient Kloss and reunites with Finn and Poe, who all greet each other with tear-filled relief. We then cut sometime later to the Falcon arriving at the abandoned Lars homestead on Tatooine, where our main hero buries the Skywalker sabers and unveils her new yellow saber made from parts of her staff. She's then greeted by an older local woman who asks her what her name is. The young Jedi then answers,
Rey Skywalker.
She and BB-8 then enjoy the Tatooine sunset, and credits roll. Daisy Ridley's Rey is as charming here as she was in episodes 7 and 8, and I like how at ease she is with her power now. Well, in 7 and 8, her displays of demigod-level force ability was a source of awe for herself. In 9, she's moved to a place where she can finally be comfortable with being someone so powerful, which just adds to her absolute terror when she realizes her power in the dark side. Being a Jedi was just starting to be cool. Being no one was just starting to be okay. Now she has to come to terms with this horrific, destructive power, and with the fact that she isn't no one. She's the direct descendant of the most evil man in the galaxy. And at a certain point, she really does start to lose it. When she fights Kylo on Kef Bir, she's actively trying to kill this fucking guy because he pisses her off like no one else in this whole damn universe. But like Luke before her, she listens to the call of her better angels, and also, like Luke, inspires her enemy to finally take a step back into the light. And I like the choice to have her reject her ancestry. Emperor Palpatine was a horrifically evil man. His name does not deserve to live on. And what better way to send one final screw you to that old man than by taking the name of his worst enemies? While I strongly disagree with the decision to turn Kylo back to the light, Adam Driver is still great as the evil Kylo Ren. Honestly, he's as cool as he's ever been, especially with how he pulls up on Emperor Goddamn Palpatine and says, "I'm gonna kill you like I killed that asshole Snoke." And I can't deny, there is something very likable about Adam as Ben Solo. Especially his Han-esque shrug when he takes Anakin's saber from Rey, and then cuts down the Knights of Ren as if to say, "I know, it's weird, I don't understand it either, but sorry, this is what it has to be, guys." And his smile after he brings Rey back, but before he dies, is just so charming. While Finn and Poe have the most bare bones of arcs in this film, I do like where their arcs actually go. Poe was always Leia's protege, and he might have always figured he'd be taking her place in the big chair one of these days, but he never figured it'd be so soon. And now that the moment is here, he isn't ready for it, but he heads out there anyway because he knows it's what Leia would do, and he can't let a great woman like her down. And moreover, Leia didn't know what the hell she was doing either, so he really is following in her footsteps. And on Finn's side, he's finally coming to his own as his own person. He's not running away anymore because he's not afraid anymore. And moreover, his decision to defect is vindicated by meeting other troopers who did what he did. And I really enjoy the fact that he's heavily implied to be Force sensitive. Now, if only we could get him to become Rey's Padawan in the EU or even in episode 10. That would be cool. The great Ian McDermott returns one last time to play one of my all-time favorite villains in all of entertainment. Emperor Sheev Palpatine of Naboo, aka Darth Sidious. I was very lukewarm about how he was used here, especially as such a huge fan of the character. But honestly, having Ian come back and do his classic routine from Return of the Jedi and Revenge of the Sith just puts the biggest smile on my face.
As once I fell, so falls the last Skywalker. Good. Your hate has made you powerful. Now, fulfill your destiny and take your father's place at my side. Let your death be the final word in the story of rebellion.
Are you going to kill me?
I would certainly like to.
I know you would. I can feel your anger. It gives you focus, makes you stronger.
Do not fear their feeble attack, my faithful. Nothing will stop the return of the Sith!
I especially love the Force God stunt he pulls when he conjures so much lightning it fills the entire sky with enough electricity that all the ships in the air go offline for several minutes until Rey catches his attention again. New characters, Zori Bliss, Babu Frick, D.O., and Janna are all welcome presences. I don't think any of them are really vital to the story, but they're all wonderful additions to the saga. Plus, the world would be a much, much poorer place for Zori and Poe's nonverbal exchange after the Battle of Exegol. That scene alone is worth buying this movie on Blu-ray. Fuck that, it's worth buying the movie on a 4K Blu-ray. While I wish Hux's role was more fleshed out, I do genuinely prefer his presence here over The Last Jedi. Not to beat a horse so dead that there's flies buzzing around over its corpse, but I wasn't terribly fond of what Rian Johnson chose to do with his character, and honestly, making Hux a spy for the Resistance is a genuinely interesting move, especially because it isn't based in altruism. He's doing it specifically because he fucking hates Kylo Ren and wants him to fail. While I find his actual role pretty superfluous, it really is such a delight to see Billy D. Williams back as Lando Calrissian. He is just as smooth and just as charismatic as he was so many years ago. And his little pep talk for Poe is great stuff.
tell you, I don't really know how to do this. What you did. I'm not ready.
Neither were we. Luke, Han, Leia, me. Who's ever ready?
How'd you do it? Defeat an empire with almost nothing.
We had each other. That's how we won.
And bonus points for him, I'm wearing a costume based on one of Donald Glover's outfits in Solo. Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia was the ultimate no-win scenario. While I do feel tempted to quibble over the actual execution, the fact of the matter is, JJ and company did the absolute best they could with a Kobayashi Maru of a situation. And I think that's worth commending. And as far as her actual story goes, I really do love the fact that she was made a Jedi in canon, and she was the one who got to train Rey, and that her last act in life was to protect her Padawan. She was as true a Jedi as her father and brother ever were. C-3PO was actually really hilarious in this movie. He's been kind of hit and miss in most of the movies, even in the original trilogy, but JJ and Chris Terrio give Anthony Daniels his best material here. A personal favorite for me would be during the speeder chase when Poe shoots at a couple stormtroopers, and C-3PO compliments him with, "Excellent job, sir!" thinking Poe got the bastards. Then the smoke clears, and it turns out Poe didn't hit the troopers, so 3PO declares, "Terrible job, sir!" John motherfucking Williams is arguably the greatest film composer of all time. Like I said when I reviewed The Force Awakens, to say he kills it here is a statement so obvious it's almost insulting. It's like saying a puppy is cute. It's like saying SpongeBob is funny. It's like saying Donald Trump is racist.
Obvious, really.
But that said, special kudos is reserved for the title track, The Rise of Skywalker. It's that special kind of tune that can make you cry happy tears. It's so delightful. The Voices of the Jedi scene is so epic. I have some issues with the climax, but hearing all of those greats of the Jedi Order come in to back up Rey, even the ones who were never actually named on screen in the movies, even the ones that were from the animated shows, it's just so rewarding as a fan of the wider universe of this franchise. This may not be the most pressing issue with the film, but the fight against Palpatine is so lackluster. All that really happens is Palpatine steals the power of Rey and Ben's bond, throws Ben into a random hole with the Force, blasts all the Resistance ships, and tries to blast Rey, but ends up throwing himself. That's not really dynamic. That's not very dynamic at all. Imagine this. What if Palpatine stole Rey and Ben's bond, but when Ben rises, he actually still tries to attack Palpatine with Anakin's lightsaber, but like with Arkin and Valkorion in the Knights of the Fallen Empire, Palpatine just blocks the attacks with ease with the Force, and says,
"Your skills are no match for the power of the dark side,"
before throwing him to that random hole. And then when Rey rises, Palpatine is still blasting the ships and is too busy with that to notice her. So she gets his attention either by blasting him with some lightning of her own, as a way of showing, "Hey, I have your power too, and I know how to use it, asshole," or by just pushing Palpatine into his throne with the Force, then having him give his little
death be the final word in the story of rebellion,
before trying to blast her with lightning and things progress like they did like they did in the movie. I think just those couple of tweaks would have helped make the fight just a little bit more interesting. There are so many superfluous characters in this movie. For example, why is Lando just chilling on Paisana? Why isn't he already working with the Resistance? And why doesn't he help the main characters more? And does Zori serve any real purpose beyond confirming that Poe does indeed like girls? I mean, she helps them find Babu, but they were already there to see Babu. She helps them board Kylo's Star Destroyer, but do they need her Imperial shuttle pass if Hux is already in there and is their spy? And what purpose does it serve to say Poe used to be a spice runner, especially when the EU and the Resistance cartoon confirms he was always in the Republic Navy? Here's an idea. Why not have Lando already be part of the Resistance and have him go with Rey, Finn, and Poe to Pisana? And instead of making Poe a spice runner, have Lando suggest visiting Babu on Kijimi, and have him say he knew Babu when he was a young man, and that they kept in touch after he became a legitimate businessman. And keeping with the subject of superfluous characters, did we really need General Pride? I mean, Richard E. Grant is a great actor, but is his character really all that necessary? And honestly, Hux as the spy, well, an interesting idea, and something that I do wish they did more with, it's also just a little too easy. You mean the guy who's always hated Kylo Ren wants to screw over Kylo Ren?
I'm shocked.
Maybe Pride should have been the spy instead of Hux, with his betrayal being something sincere. Have Hux naively think that Palpatine will give the First Order the strength it needs to finally crush the Resistance once and for all. But Pride was alive for the old Emperor's time, and he remembers how under his leadership the Empire crumbled into ruin. Or on second thought, maybe just axe the spy angle completely and have Rey just mind trick the shuttle control through the comms and cut the now repetitive scene where she mind tricks the two stormtroopers. And now we move to my biggest issue. Kylo Ren becomes Ben Solo again, and then kisses Rey, making Reylo canon for like 5 seconds. I don't like this. I do not like this in the slightest. Kylo getting to be the villain for 2.5 movies after being offered a second and third chance to turn back, and basically answering with, why the fuck would I want to do that?
Your son, he's gone. He was weak and foolish, like his father. So I destroyed him.
That's what Snoke wants you to believe. But it's not true. My son is alive.
Fleet! Order them to stop firing. There's still time to save the fleet.
Rey, I want you to join me. We can rule together and bring a new order to the galaxy.
Don't do this, Ben. Please don't go this way.
No, you're still holding on! Let go!
And then suddenly choosing, I do the fuck want to be that. I do the fuck want to do that. That doesn't work. It's not like with Vader, where when offered redemption, his reaction is, I want to, but I can't.
Come with me.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do. You don't know the power of the dark side. I must obey my master.
I will not turn, and you'll be forced to kill me.
If that is your destiny.
Suit your feelings, Father. You can't do this. I feel the conflict within you. Let go of your hate.
It is too late for me, son.
And the way his turn manifests, it's just so baffling. I get what Chris Terrio was going for with this scene. It's a pretty obvious homage to the scene he wrote for Batman v Superman, where Clark imagines himself talking to his father. But Superman imagining a pep talk from his father when he's at his lowest point is nowhere near the same thing as Kylo Ren imagining what he should have said to his father on Starkiller Base. I like the scene in concept, but the actual scene in practice just comes off as Ben apologizing to himself and then forgiving himself for killing his dad. And no, Benny boy, you don't get to do that. And honestly, having Ben turn because he's in love with some girl just isn't as powerful as Anakin turning back to save his son. Especially when that moment was a make-or-break moment for Vader. Either be Palpatine's slave forever, or do the right thing and save your son. Kylo Ren isn't up against a wall. He is the wall. He's the top bad guy. He doesn't need to turn because he has everything he wants. Everything Vader wanted was to have his family. And saving his family was his motivation for turning to the dark side, and it was his motivation for turning back to the light. And moreover, why would Ben even turn back because he loves Rey when there's no reason for him to love Rey? Because these two fucking hate each other. Every time Rey sees Kylo, she sees more red than a flower shop on Valentine's Day. And one of Kylo Ren's last lines in The Last Jedi was telling Luke,
I'll destroy her, and you, and all of it.
Is that romantic? I don't think that's romantic. I don't think that's very romantic at all. Oh, and speaking of romance, Disney, this is not acceptable. If you're going to be an evil megacorporation dedicated to selling us our own nostalgia, then at the very least you can put more effort into your insincere attempts at representation, because this is a slap in the face of the LGBT community. This is not better than nothing. This is nothing. Especially when your two male leads have already said explicitly they want to portray a same-sex romance as their characters. You're wearing floaties and stepping into the kiddie pool when you have the ability to dive into the Marianas Trench without issue. You can do better, and you should do better. So all in all, The Rise of Skywalker is fine. It's a well-constructed piece of science fiction fantasy entertainment that does deserve to be called a Star Wars film. But it ain't my favorite from this franchise. I've seen better, but I've also seen worse. Like I said when I reviewed The Last Jedi, it's very important to me personally to review a movie based on what it is, not on what I'd like it to be. Review the comedy as a comedy, not a war movie. Review the war movie as a war movie, not a comedy. And with all that said, this is an undeniably entertaining movie, but with some really serious flaws. So, I'm going to give Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, a 3.25 out of 5. And that's the end of the line for our Disney Star Wars reviews, people.
It's been real. It's been good. But it ain't been real good.
Please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And check out my previous reviews for Episode 7, Episode 8, Solo, and Rogue One, along with all the films in the Predator and Alien vs. Predator franchises, and all of the DCEU films, and several other comic book movies. And be sure to stay tuned for my retrospective discussing the DC animated movie universe. Have a great day, everyone.
Peace.
Woodstock out.